In this video I'm going to take a look at BidX1 auctions and the legal packs, the legal documents that will be available online. I've made a couple of other videos about BidX1. The same principle and the same lessons should be applied to other auction houses. So the comments that I make on this in relation to BidX1 and the auction process would be precisely the same comments that I'd make in relation to any other auction house, for example Gibson's and so on. Now I have made one or two other videos about buying online and buying at auction, and you should really watch those. I have done one especially about the typical receiver contract that you're going to encounter at a BidX1 auction. A lot of BidX1 auctions, a lot of auctions of properties that are at Gibson's and other online bidding, online auction houses are receiver sales. Receivers have been appointed by lenders and the receivers selling. The contracts tend to be very, very similar. Very similar. So I have done one video about actually go through a receiver contract line by line and review it, and it should be fairly useful, and it'll give you an idea about the type of contract that you're going to encounter in a receiver sale. And a lot of these properties that come up at BidX1 auctions and similar auctions are receiver sales. In this particular one though, this particular video, I'm going to take a look at looking into the actual website, the BidX1 website, looking at a particular property and seeing the type of documents that you're going to encounter, or your solicitor is going to encounter. You would be strongly advised as well, very, very strongly advised, to get the legal pack checked out by a solicitor before you bid, because you do not want to bid without knowing what the legal position is and end up with a winning bid and an absolute disaster of a purchase. So let's take a look at the typical BidX1 auction. We're going to be starting it up there now. Okay, here's BidX1. Today is the 25th of September 2021. There's an auction coming up there this coming week. In fact, there's two auctions. One is residential, one is a mixture, I think, of residential and commercial. In this particular one, as you can see there on the screen, there's a property there, Ash Hill, Bogganstown, County Meath. This is on, as you see, the 29th of September, and this property is being given a guide price of 45,000. It's a detached house, 3 beds, residential, refurbishment opportunity on the site of about an acre. Looks very, very attractive, looks very, very competitive in terms of price and so on, but that remains to be seen. I happen to know that there is a good bit of interest in this property. Let's have a look though at the legals. So we're going to click in here. We're going to go down here then to the legals, and this is what I'll be looking at every time I'm reviewing legals for a potential client, for a potential bidder, and we'll have a look at that. I've just seen something there now that I didn't actually see before, and you'll see there in the property summary it says subject to a tenancy at a current rent of 2,600 per annum, and it also says please note viewings will not be permitted. So this is the type of stuff that you will come across with these properties. You very much must do your research. You must do your research from a legal perspective, and you must do your research on the ground. As you can see, we're being told that we're informed the property is subject to a tenancy at a rent of 2,600 per annum. That's a new development, because last week or the week before no information was given about the occupational tenant. You'll see that it's a site extending to an acre and so on. Now we have a look at the legals. You see there's 9 documents there and there's one down here, so we'll have a look at the 9 and just see what is included. You're going to have the usual contract for sale, and this is version 2. Version 1 is down here someplace. Or maybe it's not. This is version 2 anyway. Then you've got the replies to the replies from the receiver. These are the requisitions on title. Requisitions on title are standard questions that the Law Society operating solicitors will raise with other solicitors in order to ascertain the position about a property that's being sold. So you've standard, you've 44 or 43 requisitions, requests, queries, objections, etc. Questions essentially that you want answered, and you are given replies. So you see the requisitions are on the left, these are the requests, and over on the right then you have the replies from the vendor. In this case it's the vendor is the receiver. That means that the receiver is going to say he has little or no information or knowledge about the property in question, and you make your own inquiries and so on. And that is always the case with the receiver sales. Receiver sales, the contracts will be drafted in a way that will essentially say, we know nothing, I know nothing, have never lived in the house, I'm appointed by the bank, we're selling it as it is, make your own inquiries. And that is a problem with these auctions and the receiver sales. So contracts are drafted in a way that protects the receiver and the vendor, and the requisitions, then the replies to requisitions, are of fairly limited value. So that's the first document that you see there. Well, the first document, sorry, is the contract. As I say, I have done a contract or done a video already about a typical receiver sale contract, conditions of sale. Have a look at that. I'll link it somewhere here on this video if I remember, but it is on my website. You'll see the vendor is Gary Sharp by the receiver Ken Fennell. So Ken Fennell was appointed receiver, and the registered owner I think is Gary Sharp. Receiver Ken Fennell is selling, he was appointed by the lender. The key thing about the conditions of sale, the contract, is that it will be drafted in such a way that the vendor, the receiver, will have limited knowledge, limited information, and every piece of information that he gives will be fairly highly qualified. You'll see in this one though that there's a folio property, it's a land registry property, but it's subject to and with the benefit of the occupational tenancy. So there is a tenancy, and we're told it's 2,600 per annum. These are the documents that we're getting. We're getting the copy mortgage, the deed of appointment of a receiver, the folio, the replies to requisitions, family home declaration, and so on. And these are the contracts, the conditions in the contract. Special conditions are the vital ones, but basically with a receiver sale like this, you will see repeated ad nauseum. The purchaser acknowledges, oh sorry, not that one. The receiver has limited information, limited knowledge, etc., and the purchaser is put on notice to carry out his own inquiries as best he can, and so on. But the receiver has limited knowledge. There you go, limited knowledge of vendor. The purchaser hereby acknowledges and accepts that the vendor has limited knowledge as to the affairs of the subject property prior to the date the receivers were appointed over the subject property. The purchaser shall conclusively accept the position, and no objection, requisition or inquiry may be raised in relation to this. This is a typical receiver sale, typical receiver contract. As I say, I've done a video elsewhere or on YouTube. Have a look at it, and I go through that particular contract, but it's precisely the same sort of modus operandi that you're going to come across. So that is the contract for sale. This is the legal pack now, remember we're looking at. Here's the replies. Then you've got a BER cert, which in this case is the lowest possible value. G, you are given the folio itself. Then the folio is a land registry folio. It's a certified land registry, sealed and certified copy folio, sealed by the land registry. It sets out the description of the property. It sets out the registered owner. This gentleman here is the registered owner, and it charges on the property. You'll see that there's a charge there, a mortgage for first active. They sold the mortgage then to Promontoria Oyster Designated Company. You see they're the owner of the charge, registered entry number 1. So first active sold this loan to Promontoria. Promontoria then appointed Ken Fennell as receiver, and he's selling. And that's the site then of the property, because this is the filed plan with the folio. That's the site. Again, that's a typical document that you want to get with the legal pack. That's the folio. Down here then you've a decision in relation to planning permission. The only interest or the only document in relation to planning that's been provided, that's it. There's no certificate of compliance with planning or anything of that nature, but that's what you're getting. Then there's the mortgage and charge. This gives rise to is a copy of the mortgage and a copy of the charge on the property. This gives the rise to the appointment of the receiver, and it gives rise to the power of sale being vested in the receiver. This one then is, what is this? Instrument of the appointment of the receiver. So this is the instrument or the document which appoints the receiver. Promontoria, Ken Fennell Promontoria, as I say, bought the loan off First Active. Gary Sharp was the original lender, or original borrower rather, and Promontoria then bought the loan off First Active, and they've appointed Ken Fennell to sell. And that's it. That's really the documents that you're getting there, the title documents. Now there's one more down here. And it's a family home declaration. It's a standard document, a standard declaration which must be provided. But the bottom line is, the key thing is the legal pack should be gone through, should be reviewed by a solicitor, and the contract in particular, particularly if it's a receiver sale, will be vitally important to have a look at, because it will probably say that the receiver has limited information and you are put on notice about making your own inquiries and so on. The key things you'd want to be looking for would be services on the road abutting the property. Are they in charge or not? And more often than not, the receiver will simply say, I don't know, I've limited knowledge, go and make your own inquiries. So that's that particular property. If we go to any other property, you're going to have a similar sort of a situation. There's a house there in Mayo, Foxford. We scroll down here now to the legals, the legal pack. We confirm we're looking at the legal pack. There's a contract there for sale. Take a look at that. Again, Harry Fenney and Bridget Stubbings, they got into difficulty, I assume, and the receiver then, acting by the receiver, Paul McCleary. So again, you have a receiver who's appointed. It'll be a similar sort of a contract, very much drafted in a way that basically says the receiver has limited knowledge about the property and so on, because the receiver didn't live in the property for a number of years, never lived in the property. The title documents then, again, you're looking at the BER cert, you're looking at the PRA map, and you'll see there now the map, that's an unusual looking map, and you'll see that it doesn't go out to the boundaries of the road or anything, so that's something that will want to be looked at closely if you're interested in that property. You have a draft section 72 declaration, draft family home, you have a deed of assurance. This is the draft deed of assurance basically from the receiver to the purchaser, so you'll see there the transfer of the property from the receiver to the successful bidder. You'll see the letter re roads and services, in other words, confirming the position in relation to roads and services servicing the property. You'll see confirmation from Joe Burke and Partners regarding completion of the property and compliance with building regulations, so presumably that's a certificate of compliance with planning permission and building regs. There's one there on the original certificate of compliance with planning permission and building regs, that's important. Copy planning permission, and then certified copy instruments. These are copy instruments from the land registry, and then this is the certified copy mortgage. Again, this gives rise to the appointment of the receiver and the power of sale. That is typical of a bid X1 auction property. As I say, the same principle applies to all of these properties or property auctions. So it could be Gibson's, it could be some other auctioneer or real estate business selling online. It's the same principle. A lot of these properties are receiver sales appointed by the banks, and you can get lucky, or things can be very competitive. There can be a lot of interest in a property, but you can get lucky, and I have seen people getting lucky and getting a property with one bid. But that's the story. Hope you find this video useful. If you do, I'd appreciate if you give it a thumbs up down below, and I would strongly recommend that you have a look at the video that I made, which reviews a typical receiver sale contract, because you're going to come across it time and time again. And if you do one thing only before you go bid at a bid X1 auction or any of these auctions, get the legals checked out, because you do not want to be repenting in leisure and rushing in and bidding and winning a property and then discovering that there's a significant problem. For example, a sitting tenant that you can't get rid of. Anyway, I hope you find this video useful. Thanks for watching.